I don't know what's more confusing, learning astrology or just being a human. Moonday Musings is here to help with that. A weekly, no bullshit guide for the upcoming cosmic forecast and how you can actually use this in your real life. Hello, neighbor. Happy Monday, my friend. Happy Moonday, and welcome back to another episode of Moonday Musings here at That Witch Podcast. If you've never been here before, hello, welcome. I'm so glad you found our witchy little neighborhood here. I'm Danny. I'm That Witch Next Door. I'll be your host, your guide, your mentor, your instructor, your spiritual bestie in all things modern witchcraft and cosmic living. And on the first Moonday of the month, we go through the astrological energy for the month ahead. We take notes. We grab our planner. We grab our calendar. We jot down anything that jumps out at us for the coming weeks ahead. And we mindfully and intentionally step into this next calendar month, which is July 2026. And that means that we are officially in the second half of 2026. Ready or not, here it already is. And that's, I don't know about you, but that's like insane. I was talking with Jared this week and we were just like, I am in like crazy disbelief this year, particularly about how fast the year has gone by. I don't know if I'm experiencing, I remember adults telling me when I was younger that the older you get, that the faster it feels like time goes. And I don't know if that's what this is that I'm experiencing. You tell me, what's your experience? I would love to know. Are we all having the same one? Is this a me thing? I don't know. But time definitely feels like it's going weirdly and sometimes unfairly fast in some ways. It's been really fascinating. I will say that, Saturn entered Aries within the last year. In general, when we have a Saturnian ingress, when Saturn moves into a new zodiac sign, I do think that this is a time that is also symbolized by us, like, dealing with our conception and definition of time and how it feels versus what it says on the clock or the calendar type of a thing. So I do think that's a little bit of Saturn coming into play. And we're going to be talking about Saturn today. So let's not mince any more words here and let's jump right into the astrology for July 2026. Like I said, if you need a second to go grab your calendar or planner, I'll wait right here. You can even pause me. If you're not able to do that right now, totally fine. No big deal. Always fine to just listen into Moonday Musings, of course. And I will say that the first Moonday of the month is a lot of information. It's a big timeline. It's a lot of info coming at you. And I find that sometimes it makes it feel a lot more bite-sized and tangible and digestible piece by piece when you just jot down little notes here and there in your planner or calendar so that as the month progresses, you're seeing those little notes. You get those little reminders from whatever we talk about in the episode today. Anything that came up for you while I'm chit-chatting with you here today, you'll remember that when you look at your little note in your planner or calendar. Whether you're analog, whether you're a digital girly, it doesn't matter. I highly recommend making notes in your planner or calendar. And if you can't do that right now, I do recommend that if anything does jump out at you, anything that, especially if it's just like a little intuitive, like ping, like, that really dings a bell for me, Danny. If you're not able to write it down, I want you to take a screenshot of where you're at in the YouTube video or the episode you're listening to right now, and take a screenshot of the timestamp so you can circle back, remember what I was talking about, and jot it down in your planner or calendar later to remember. You will not be sorry you did that. That tip, there's a reason why I remind you every month to do that. That tip has served so many neighbors so well over the years. And I will never stop recommending it. And I don't know. I just think that this is one of the best ways we actually live astrology instead of just constantly talk about it and consume it. We actually utilize and apply it. Cast it out like a little seed into your future by making note of it somewhere, okay? Now, let's start into July. The first major transit that we're going to talk about is Neptune stationing retrograde in Aries. This begins on Tuesday, 7/7. For all my numerology babes out there, this is a fascinating one, which is so Neptunian, by the way. What I'm about to say. These dates are so Neptunian. Neptune represents our understanding of, our concept of, and our personal relationship to spirituality, the big giant umbrella that is spirituality. Okay. So seeing little angel numbers or little numerology magic here, again, it's very Neptunian. So Neptune stations its retrograde on 7/7 at 4 degrees Aries. It stations direct on 12/12. You can't make it up. It'll station direct at 1 degree Aries. So, like I said, so Neptune encompasses this understanding of and our unique connection to spirituality. When it's retrograde in Aries, we can definitely see some rage come up. We can see some tough feelings, especially in the realm of anger, frustration, defensiveness, resentment, the stuff that like fires you up, like, fuck, I'm pissed about this. That can be very, very Aries related. And you might notice feelings like that surface, especially as we deconstruct previous experiences within religion, within indoctrination, within our own personal spiritual beliefs and philosophies, how they were presented to us, given to us, perhaps even forced on us, and how all of that translates now. We might be doing an extra bit of reflecting on those things right now. Here's what I want you to keep an eye on. I would not be surprised at all if we see these impulsive, both declarations and denunciations of spirituality and spiritual paths, especially in public places like social media. I don't know if you've noticed, if you're around the witchy and the astrology, the tarot, the new agey, all of the above areas of social media, there has been more than one seemingly sudden, perhaps they're not on the back end, in the background, what we don't see on social media, but we see these seemingly sudden denunciations all of a sudden from big creators, people that have been big in the witchy and the astrology industries and communities on social media with big followings, big businesses have done a lot of medium work or psychic work or tarot work, and all of a sudden they're having these big, grand public denunciations of witchcraft and tarot and astrology and saying it's all demonic and pledging themselves to and declaring that deep down they're actually Christian and embracing that. It's been very fascinating. I have personally seen this across multiple feeds, across multiple social media platforms from different creators over the last several months. It's been fascinating. And in the words of one of the commenters I saw respond to one of these, which I fully agree with, I wish this would be studied. Like it would, I wish there was a study of that pipeline of like getting huge and devoting yourself and claiming witchcraft and tarot and psychic work And then again, what seems to the public and the way it's presented to the public like this overnight, actually this is all demonic, and I give all of that up, and it's very, very fascinating. Most people are announcing their departure, and most of them are not departing lovingly. A lot of them are parting with very, very negative feedback. It's fascinating to me. I will say, I've mentioned it even here in my own content. You've probably heard me say the words, I'm deconstructing my own astrology practice right now. I'm deconstructing my own witchcraft practice right now. That's true. I am. The big difference that I'm personally experiencing is my deconstruction is honing my craft and strengthening the beliefs I have and the value I see and experience in the witchcraft, mysticism, astrology realms. I feel strengthened in those things. I feel like my deconstruction, and this is how I'm experiencing Saturn's ingress into Aries, is I'm realizing that during the last couple of signs for Saturn for quite some time, I am recognizing parts of my spirituality that were really performative in nature, performance driven for approval or provability, for validity, to feel like it's real. And I share this because I want you to know that it's a normal part of a Neptunian experience. A normal part of our spiritual experience is this existential reflection that we do. What do we believe and what don't we believe? And this is very what a Neptune in Aries. Oh, and by the way, I totally misspoke. I just realized I said for me, this Saturn in Aries has been making me deconstruct. And Saturn might be having some influence here. I meant to say this Neptune in Aries, for me, in this past cycle of Neptune in Pisces, it's making me realize how much of my spirituality practices were again, performance and approval motivated and driven, so that I felt valued, so that I felt like what I was doing was real magic. So I felt like a real witch. Does that sound familiar to you? Do you feel that way sometimes? That's what the deconstruction has looked like for me. And it's been much more about defining my unique craft as it reflects my spiritual beliefs and my connection to spirit and nothing else. That's the Aries part. Fuck it. What matters is my connection to spirit. My spiritual craft should reflect that. It doesn't have to look all mystical and it doesn't have to look like anything. There's nothing it has to look like. It just has to resonate with me. And that's what this Neptune transit from Pisces ending and now beginning its journey into Aries has done for me. And Neptune stationing retrograde from now until December, we will probably see an increase in that type of inner reflection. And some of us, it's going to turn us towards some inner work. For others, you're going to see impulsive action. You're going to see, again, I have to declare this and I have to boldly take action on this belief. And there's definitely going to be some good that comes from that. And there's definitely going to be some learning that comes from that. Now, this moves us into Venus entering Virgo on Thursday, July 9th. So Venus has been in Leo this past cycle, this past chapter. It is ending that chapter and it is entering into Virgo from July 9th to August 6th. I think that Venus in Virgo gets a bad rap. And that's because it's considered to be in its fall when it's in the sign of Virgo. Venus is considered to be exalted in Pisces, the sign that is opposite Virgo. And therefore, when it enters that sign opposite of its exaltation, it's considered to be in its fall. This is called an essential dignity. It's part of our categorization of how planets function in different signs. And it is approached in a very black and white and binary and unhelpful way a lot. And I have had so many clients with a natal Venus in Virgo. If you have a natal Venus in Virgo and we've had a reading together, I love you. I have a special appreciation for you. My daughter has a Venus in Virgo. I've had friends with Venus in Virgo. I've heard it talked about. I've read about it, studied about it. Venus in Virgo gets just like totally glossed over into like Venus in Virgo. Virgo is just wildly misunderstood energy. And then it's particularly misunderstood when we're looking at it through the lens of Venus. Because Venus is so associated with love and beauty and aesthetic, and emotion and connection, Virgo, we associate and boil it down in so many ways to just being this like hyper organized type A, like overachiever. And then it's left at that. And this just could not be more of just like the tiniest little tip of the iceberg. Virgo is an earth sign at its core, and it's ruled by air planet Mercury. And so Virgo is earth, but it's powered and has a lot of influence by the mental realms of air. And so it's incredibly intelligent, incredibly communicative and articulate, and honestly so underestimated, but in this way, but is so witty and so comical because Virgo is so good with words, but we never attribute those skills and qualities to Virgo, and it drives me crazy. Now, there's a connection point, Virgo to Venus, that gets overlooked by this fact that it's considered to be in its fall, and it's the Earth connection, my friend. And don't discount that. Virgo and Venus talk to each other through the earth line connection. And Virgo is incredibly apt at improving and refining its environment, its earthly, tangible environment around it. So when we put that understanding and that expression and that lens on Venus, and Venus has to experience through the experience of Virgo, Virgo can really bring these powers of problem solving and improvement and refinement into the areas of life we value most, if we let it. Now, I think that Venus and Virgo, the shadows that come up during this time is we can be particularly weighed down by perfectionism and perfection-born expectations, and not having wiggle room on those. Being really obsessed with it being perfect. Really, really obsessed with it being perfect, no mistakes. The best it can be. That's the phrase. The best it can be. The best it can be. Being motivated by something being the best it can be is a superpower of Virgo, and it can be its very own kryptonite and an area of self-destruction. It's a great motivator, and it will destroy you because nothing can truly be perfect. Perfect is subjective, and it's a human-born concept. perfect to you is not perfect to me. It varies by so much. And Virgo actually is liberated when it remembers this. And that's why good enough or even great can be a wonderful way to turn toward our Virgo and Venus perfectionism that comes up. I also think that when Venus is in Virgo, this is a great time for doing a little bit of overhaul on your relationships and the things you value and the things that bring the most meaning to you in your life. What are the things that really do reciprocate back to you and reflect that value back to you in some way, and what simply does not? Sometimes that Virgo refinement helps us let go of what has only been draining and taking from us anyways in this really unapologetic way. So Venus in Virgo chapter, the 9th through August 6th, until August 6th. And not something to boil down into a negative, in my opinion, at all. Now, this brings us to Sunday, July 14th, which is our new moon in Cancer. So we're going to be in Cancer, deep in Cancer energy by this point of July. And the new moon is going to happen at 21 degrees of Cancer. So the moon will move into Cancer on Sunday, July 12th, and open up the new moon portal. Then the new moon exact happens on Tuesday the 14th. Ooh, I think I said Sunday the 14th the first time. I apologize, friends. Typos. You get it. This was created at the end of Gemini season. So new moon peak is Tuesday, July 14th in the early morning, 5:43 a.m. Eastern time. And the portal closes when the moon enters Leo later Tuesday evening at 6:35 p.m. Eastern time on the 14th. Now, I love a Cancer new moon. The moon rules Cancer. When the moon is in the sign of Cancer, we tend to be in pretty harmonious energy. Most of us tend to feel this way. But the fact of the matter is not everybody experiences transits exactly the same. And some of us can feel very at home in our feelings and our emotions during a new moon in Cancer. And some of us can feel very, very emotionally overwhelmed. You can also feel very, very emotionally spent during this time. If Cancer energy for you tends to be expressed through overgiving yourself, you might find yourself feeling more emotionally spent at this time. I recommend giving yourself permission to best feel at home in your feelings. And for some of us, that's going to look like bumping up some self-care, giving ourselves permission to meet our own needs. For some of us, what brings us peace is knowing that the people we care for most are taken care of. And I'd recommend doing a little balancing. I make sure that my loved ones are fed and I eat with them. And when they're ready for seconds, I don't get up and automatically give it to them. I can finish my food before I help them, essentially. And this, I'm using a parenting example, obviously, but there's a metaphor I'm talking about here where both needs can be met. That world really does exist, and the connections in our life that make everything feel like it's a constant either or, probably something to look at why that's coming up for you. And again, this is an evaluation point at that time. New moon in Cancer can be a time that brings to light this balance between the needs of others and the needs of our own, the health of our relationships, especially our familial relationships with our family, with our chosen family and our blood family. I just want you to know that vulnerability is not the enemy, and you also don't have to harm your own boundaries. So there's this balance that does and can exist between being emotionally accessible and vulnerable and engaging in the gifts of vulnerability. And that doesn't mean that you have to harm or betray your boundaries. It does not have to be an either or. It can be both. That is, again, Tuesday, July 14th, new moon in Cancer. This brings us to the end of Cancer season, because on Wednesday, July 22nd, not only will it be the 5-year birthday of That Witch podcast, it will also be the first day of Leo season 2026. Can you believe that, by the way? 5 years of doing this show. And we just grow closer and closer and better in this neighborhood every year. And I don't have words. I don't have words yet, but I can't believe that we're coming up on a 5-year birthday. It's insane. Wednesday, July 22nd, Leo season begins. Leo season is going to be July 22nd until August 22nd. And I want you to know that Leo season is the time to go for it. Wear the outfit, make the call, turn the page, take the plunge. Courage doesn't miraculously show up and make things easier. It's born in the experiences we follow, desire, and passion at our most scared. That's what ended up coming through for the blog post for this month's astrological overview. If you didn't already know, there's a written version of this episode, especially if you're a very visual person. You can go over to thatwitchnextdoor.com/blog and you can get the July cosmic overview timeline. And I want you to remember that Leo season doesn't miraculously make us not feel scared. We might feel a little more inclined to be a little more bold, but it doesn't just manifest confidence out of nowhere. It shows us the parts of ourselves we tend to feel the best about. It helps us find and connect with the parts of ourselves we're most proud of and use those in motivation to show up completely and wholly as we are, okay? And from that, courage is born. But the courage doesn't miraculously show up just because the sun moves in to Leo season, okay? This puts us to Mercury ending its retrograde. The following day, right after Leo season begins, on Thursday, July 23rd, Mercury stations direct at 16 degrees Cancer. Listen, Mercury retrograde doesn't usually get me that bad, all right? Doesn't really get me down, doesn't really hit me that bad. I have my Mars is in Gemini in my natal chart, and it is retrograde. And because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, I feel like a lot of Mercury retrogrades, I experience a lot of those times in a lot of favor. Like sometimes people will be talking about these huge struggles they're having during certain Mercury retrograde cycles. And I'm like, man, time and time again, I'm usually in a really good place. Not this one, folks. My goodness gracious. Definitely been classically hitting over here. Just people coming out of the woodwork, having to have really uncomfortable clarifying conversations and work through really difficult miscommunications. Very classic Mercury retrograde energy over here. But alas, on Thursday, July 23rd, Mercury will station direct in Cancer, and our retrograde cycle will come to an end until our next Mercury retrograde, if you want to make note, is not until October, okay? So we'll be Mercury retrograde free, but obviously there's other planetary retrogrades. Now, what you can do at the end of this cycle is you can reflect on this past Mercury retrograde chapter. You can look back at June 29th through July 23rd, which is the technical Mercury retrograde period. Really, you could probably look at all of June and all of July and just make note of any significant events, any personal connections that came through for you. You can maybe jot down any challenges you experienced and reflect on them and see if anything, any connecting points come up or any realizations or any aha moments, you know what I mean? Reflecting at the end of a retrograde cycle can really help a lot of the mishaps from the retrograde cycle make a little bit more sense. You can get a little more meaning out of them moving forward. And this is bringing us toward the end of the month here. We move then to Sunday, July 26th. We got a pretty big one here. The North Node enters Aquarius. The North Node will be in Aquarius until March 2028. Because the North Node is always exactly opposite the South Node will therefore be entering Leo when the North Node enters Aquarius. The nodes are those little horseshoe-looking symbols in the chart that you've probably seen. The North Node, the arch of the horseshoe, as I'm calling it, the arch of the horseshoe is on the top, so it looks like an arch with two little circles on the bottom of the arch. And the South Node looks the opposite. The arch is on the bottom. It looks like the letter U, right? Or right side up horseshoe, essentially. At least right side up for how you're supposed to like hang it up for good luck, right? So it's shaped like this, YouTube world, like the letter U. That's the South Node. The nodes have been often referred to as the nodes of destiny. They have a lot to do with our soul timeline, our soul purpose, or perhaps even the multifractal, the purposes of our soul and our soul's timeline and our soul's experiences. The North Node represents where we are going, what we are heading into, what we are learning. And the South Node represents what we are leaving behind and moving away from. If your natal North Node is in Aquarius and your natal South Node is in Leo, like yours truly, we are entering into what's called our nodal return. If it's the opposite, if your North Node, and the arch on the top, right? If your North Node is in Leo and your South Node is in Aquarius, you are going through what is called your nodal opposition. I would love to do a one-on-one session with you if you're curious at all about what this time means for you. I love doing nodal return and any planetary return readings. This is when we have the North Node entering Aquarius, this is a shift and a chapter all about progress for the greater good. We are heading into humanity. What is good for all, for the collective, for the sake of progress. Aquarius asks us to zoom way outside of our personal bubble and gets us into our unique connection to the collective and how we are a part of that and how we impact and how we ultimately contribute to that and the bettering of that, okay? This is going to last, like I said, North Node will be in Aquarius until March 2028. So this is about an 18-month chapter. And we'll see some eclipses on this axis as well, because the lunar nodes are a part of eclipse energy and how eclipses happen. They're part of that astrologically speaking and astronomically speaking. So we will be revisiting this North Node in Aquarius conversation, absolutely. But it's a big conversation. It's way too big for a little bite in an episode, I feel like. But you may feel, even if you don't have your North Node in Aquarius, because this is a collective transit for us, even if you're not going through your nodal return or your nodal opposition, you can likely still see this big surface in that call to helping others, that call to making the world a better place, not just for you to live in, but for people long after you to live in as well. And thinking about how we live and what we do right now and how that impacts generations to come, essentially. Then also on Sunday, July 26th, Saturn stations retrograde in Aries. So we began our conversation today with Neptune stationing retrograde in Aries. It's definitely why I flip-flopped my words around earlier, because Saturn is also stationing a retrograde cycle in Aries starting July 26th. And it will station direct and end this retrograde cycle on December 10th. So both the Neptune and the Saturn retrograde cycles will take place during roughly the same timeline, July to December. Here's what I want to say. Feeling vindicated versus being vindictive. Saturn's retrograde in Aries may show our true colors when it comes to accountability. I think that personal accountability is going to be a really big shadow that surfaces during this Saturn in retrograde. Your personal accountability is going to be tested, and it will also be tested of others. And it is very, very likely that you will witness others skipping out on and ditching the concept of personal accountability. And very likely you'll have this personal experience of, what the fuck? I always have to be the bigger person. I always have to be the bigger person. This person doesn't have to be. This person didn't have to be. This person didn't have to be. And guess what? Saturn asks us essentially to rise above anyways, because that person not taking personal accountability and you using that as an excuse to do the same thing is only going to bite you in the ass later on, my friend. Saturn teaches us over and frickin' over again, right? Those repetitive rings on Saturn. Saturn teaches us over and over and over again the consequences of our actions and our decisions. The more you put the responsibility of your decisions and actions into the hands of other people and say, it's because of them, it's because of them, it's their fault, guess what? None of those people have to answer for that anyways. You are still the one who has to deal with the negative repercussions from that. So Saturn asks us to rise above and do the right thing anyways, especially in terms of how it's going to impact us later on. Do the hard work now, is what Saturn says. I know it's hard. I know you want to kick the can down the road, but the can is gonna find you, my friend. And if you don't want the can to find you, don't kick it down the road. Sometimes we're gonna do it. I'm a can kicker, okay? I'm a recovering can kicker. I have been known to ditch out on and evade and avoid uncomfortable, difficult conversations, especially conflict and confrontation, very Aries. I have been very, very known to run from that. People pleasers, this is going to be hard. You're going to be tested in your personal accountability. Owning up to, having the uncomfortable conversation, rising above, even when somebody right to your face is taking the easy way out. We're in this together. If I can rise above, you can rise above. And this brings us to our final major transit, our final major astrological piece for July of 2026. On Wednesday, July 29th at 10:35 a.m. is our full moon in Aquarius. This beautifully takes place right after that North Node enters into Aquarius. I also think that this Aquarius stuff going on while we're doing some of this Aries retrograde stuff, I think we're being particularly tasked with doing the right thing and doing it because it's the right thing for the greater good. I really, really do. The full moon in Aquarius can connect us to incredible powers of manifestation and metamorphosis, especially, in my opinion, when we don't do it for personal gain and we do it because it's the right thing. It's right for all. It betters the world. I better myself and I naturally better the world because my contribution to the world will be better. That type of motive, those types of motive, that type of drive, that is powerful mindset under full moon in Aquarius manifestation. So that is July 29th, my friend. It's going to be a Wednesday. So we're going to be, let me look at the calendar. Yeah, we're going to be visiting with each other for our reflection and gratitude episode at the very end of July, that Monday. We're going to do a reflection and gratitude card reading together here on Moonday Musings. And not only will this be to reflect on July and move into August ahead, but I think that this is going to serve some really helpful purpose in our full moon magic that week, just a couple days later. Really lovely. I love you, neighbor. Thanks for spending your time today with me. Thanks for going through this big, beautiful astrological timeline with me. If you miss weekly Moonday Musings check-ins, I did want to let you know that I have started releasing Moonday morning announcements exclusively inside That Witch School in our bonus episode library. And it's this lovely weekly check-in with myself and our school community to chit-chat about the major astrology for that week. And we also talk about upcoming events in That Witch School. We talk about any updates, any announcements or sneak peeks or any early news that I have. That's going to be a place that I drop that for everybody. It's a lovely little weekly connecting point. And this is available to all of my members inside of That Witch School. You unlock it instantly, even by subscribing to our lowest tier in That Witch School as well. But the bonus episode library is growing and it's being nurtured with an all new bonus episode series, which is our Moonday morning announcements. And it's a nice little chit chat in between our big Moonday Musings episodes here on That Witch podcast together. Our big Moonday, first of the month, cosmic overview, and then that beautiful reflection and therefore gratitude practice that we do on the last Moonday of the month together. So I wanted to make sure to let you know, if you like astrology with me, if this stuff resonates, if you want to know how this is applying to you, I would love to work one-on-one with you. You can book a personal birth chart reading with me. You can also book a personal birth chart reading and utilize that for a Saturn return reading, a nodal return reading. If this is just a time in your life that you're like, I just want to see through the lens of astrology what the hell has been going on in my life and where I'm going and what I can embrace moving forward, book a personal birth chart reading with me. If you are wanting to learn more astrology yourself and you're wanting to pull up your own chart and the chart of others and pull up these transits and better understand it and do this beautiful interpretive work yourself, I also offer one-on-one astrology tutoring, and I love my astrology tutoring sessions. These are these nice 45 to 55 minute one-on-one sessions where we are just focusing on learning through your real life experience in the chart. So we're using real life experiences that have happened or are going on, and we're combining this with the symbolism that's showing up in astrology. And you are not only getting this, deeper understanding of your own chart, you're learning astrology and how to apply this and approach it and work with it for others or for upcoming transits or to become an astrologer yourself. Working with a one-on-one real human astrologer is a necessity, in my opinion, to becoming an astrologer one day. Absolutely. And I promise you that working with a human in astrology is going to be light years more serving value in your life in the long term, if astrology is a passion of yours, than utilizing something like ChatGPT or AI to learn astrology. Trust me, we're going to be talking about that this month on That Witch podcast. But I do have spots open, and I would love to work with you. If you have any questions, I'm always just right next door. You can get in touch with me at the links in the show notes below. Again, I want to thank you for your time today, neighbor, and every day, and for everything that you bring to this beautiful neighborhood of ours. Until I see you next time, make sure that you're out there staying safe, you're letting yourself have fun, and of course, stay magical, my friend. If you enjoyed today's episode, if you learned something, or you just love That Witch podcast, one of the best things that you can do is share the show with a friend. Just by reaching out and sharing a link or recommending us to somebody is hands down the best way to help us grow our podcast here. So you can head right now into the podcast app that you're listening to, and you can directly share this episode by using your little share link button, or you can just take a screenshot or just mention That Witch podcast to whoever you're recommending us to, because you can find That Witch podcast on all major podcast listening platforms. Thanks for being such a great neighbor.